Hello everybody, I hope you all are well. You all are well. I can't speak. Today we have a video I've been excited to make for a while, which is how to make your first song ever on Garageband with no mic, just using Apple headphones. Since we're using Garageband and an Apple headphones mic, this is not going to be pristine professional quality. The point of this video is just to get you started and learn some tips and tricks, some keywords to look up to just get the ball rolling. If you've never made any music before, I'm hoping that by the end of this video you kind of have an idea of how to do it. If you've made a lot of music in the past, hopefully this gives you some insight into how I compose, how I go about writing a song, and staple techniques that you can use anywhere with any software at all. Since we're using GarageBand, this is going to be targeted towards Mac users. If you have a PC, you're using FL Studio, Ableton, or whatever, you should be able to follow along in one form or another. It'll just take a little longer. You might have to Google some more stuff, but that is half of producing anyways. Once you have a song finished and you need somewhere to show it to people, let's say you want to put it on Spotify for all your homies to see, DistroKid is my personal favorite way to do that stuff. DistroKid sponsored this video. They're helping to make it possible for me to do this full time. I do all of my distribution through DistroKid, so it's a super easy process. It's like filling out any upload form at all. You also get access to Spotify for artists and all of those goodies. You get to be like one of those verified Spotify artists with a little blue check mark. The best part about DistroKid is how easy it is to use. It's a super intuitive interface and they let you keep 100% of royalties. So at first it's not that much, so every dollar counts. It's only $25 to get started, and for $30 you can have 2 artists upload unlimited songs, and yeah, you still get to keep all of your royalties. It's amazing. They put you everywhere, from Spotify to TikTok to the Instagram story thing. I couldn't recommend them more highly. Use the code in the description to get 7% off your already ridiculously cheap first year. Not only do you get a little discount, but you also support the channel. So yeah, happy uploading. I wish you all the best and blessings from the algorithm gods. Okay, if you're watching this on a laptop, you're ready to go, just grab yourself some headphones, and if you're on your phone, grab your laptop and let's make a song. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is just find GarageBand, like make sure you have it. To check, hold Command, and then while you're holding Command, press spacebar to pull up the Spotlight search, and you can type in GarageBand. If it comes up, then you have it. If it doesn't come up, go to the App Store, type in GarageBand, and since I already have it, I can click open. But if you don't have it, it'll say get or buy, and then when you open it up, you should see something like this. It's actually pretty epic. They have lessons, they also have templates that you can start with, and I highly recommend playing around with these because they kind of give you different ideas of how to structure a song and what instruments you can use in GarageBand. But today we're just going to start with an empty project, and I'll kind of give you the ins and outs. The first thing we're going to add is a software instrument. Since we're not using any real instruments today except for our voice, using like the headphone mic, and I'm going to be assuming that most people who haven't made a song before don't have a MIDI keyboard. A MIDI keyboard or MIDI controller is just something that you can plug in, like a piano keyboard for example, that you can plug into your computer and then play notes on the software instrument that you have. Since most of us probably don't have that, select the instrument track and then press Command and K, and then it'll pull up musical typing if it wasn't up already. And then you can use the letters on your keyboard to play notes. Wow, amazing. Very pretty. Luckily, GarageBand has quite a nice user interface. It's not as intimidating as other digital audio workstations. Digital audio workstations are just things like GarageBand, or if you've heard of FL Studio, Logic, Ableton, all of those are digital audio workstations, otherwise known as DAWs, otherwise known as DAWs. I think the first thing that's most important to do when you first get into here is look at the library. There's a bunch of buttons everywhere that do a bunch of stuff. Get those out of your face. Don't even look at them. Just go over here and start playing with sounds. Like if you want to go to a synthesizer, you have all of these different options, and these will turn into different instrument patches. So right now we're working with an electric piano, whereas now when we switch to this, it'll probably be the retro synth. And so we can press Command K here and just play some notes. Ooh. And then what's really cool, if you want to start getting into sound design just straight off the bat, it'll pull up these controls here, which you can make appear and disappear by pressing B. Boop, boop. You can start adjusting sounds. So the attack of a sound is just how quickly the note comes in. So if you turn it all the way up, and then if you turn it all the way down, I would highly recommend, if you're interested in sound design at all, just going through and maxing out every knob and then pulling it back slowly. Each knob at a time, not all of them at once, so that way you can kind of feel what each one does sonically. A lot of the time when I'm just starting a song and I don't have any really ideas, I'll just go through and find some sounds that like inspire some sort of emotion. And a lot of these are crazy, so let's just start looking through them. I love mallets, so like marimbas. This will come up if you've made changes to the settings. You can actually save settings that you've changed as patches, so you can hit save as to save a custom instrument. So this is a marimba. I have a big soft spot for marimbas just because of the Avatar The Last Airbender soundtrack. It's incredible. If you're stuck deep in the library somewhere, just hit the bottom left corner. We'll take you back to the previous menu. So the first thing we're gonna learn is the C major triad, which is just a chord with 3 notes in it, which is why it's called a triad. And it's major because it sounds happy, and minor chords sound sad. So the way a major chord works, you start with your first note, so here we're just doing a C. And then you go up 4 half steps. A half step is just going from C to C sharp. And so you do 4 of those. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you play those 2 notes together. So that's a major third that's already sounding pretty vibey, but then you add the 5th in by going up another 3 half steps from here, 1, 2, 3, and then you're at the 5th. And the cool thing about 5ths is they're the same for both types of chords, so if you're doing a minor or a major, the 5th is still gonna be this G here. And then you play all 3 of them together. Wow. And then a C minor, instead of going up 4 semitones at the start, you just go up 3. From C you go 1, 2, 3, and then you play that 5th from before because it stays the same through minor and major. Sad, darkness, despair, happiness, sunshine, lollipops, flowers, children dancing in the meadow. And then you can do other stuff like add different notes up the scale. The easiest way to do this on like an actual keyboard is you just leave a space of 1 letter on your keyboard when you're doing musical typing. So like ASD, you just play the A and the D, and then you just play the G and the J, and then you have a major 7 chord. And then you can move it up and down the keyboard just for fun. Bangers. Okay, let's find a sound. That's kind of a vibe. Ooh, that's a sick bass. We're gonna keep that in there. Ooh, that's hard. We're gonna keep that. That's hard. I don't know why I like that so much. That's super wet. Bass, chord stabs. When you find a cool sound you like, you're probably gonna want to keep it. But what I like to do is just duplicate this track. The way you do that is just holding Command and pressing D. And then you can just go about messing around and finding other sounds. If you just start duplicating tracks, it can get a little bit confusing with the same icon all the time. So what you can do is just right click on the icon and you can choose whichever one you want. Honestly, where I'm at right now, I've found enough songs to kind of just like base a song off of. Let's say you had a melody like da na 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 na. What you do is just press play. In the metronome right here, you can click on and off, keep it on, and just see how it lines up with that melody you're singing. Okay, so it's a little fast, so we can like turn it down to match where we want it. So what we're gonna do right here is right click on the timeline, which is this section right here. What this is doing is moving forward, going through time in quarter notes. All these little baby notches are quarter notes, and all these medium notches are bars. Just right click on the timeline in the space of the track you want. So we're gonna be working on the bass right here. And just click Create Empty MIDI Region. You can drag it out to cover 4 bars, which is the normal length of a chord progression, and then you can double click it and it'll come up as what is called a piano roll, because you can see this piano right here, and then this grid where we can actually draw in notes with our mouse. So if you hit Command, the little pencil comes up, and you can actually click on spaces in this grid to make notes. This grid is just a zoomed in version of the timeline. Each of these medium lines is a quarter note. This is where the metronome will be hitting. And then each of these little baby ones are 32nd notes. And then this can be split up into 16th notes. It's just math, all right? It just divides. So sometimes you'll have a melody that actually starts before the first beat in the bar. And that's fine. You can actually just drag the entire MIDI region forward and then either make a new MIDI region by right clicking right here and adding one right there. Or you can just drag it by going down to the bottom corner, either side of it, and pulling it. A lot of the times, good melodies will repeat. If you think about melodies that you like to sing, most of them are like gonna be 3 or 4 notes, maybe 5. If you wanna copy and paste the melody, what you wanna do is just select all of these, hitting Command C, and then pressing where you want the melody to start. So since it started on the 3rd beat, it's gonna start on the 3rd beat again. Boop. So mine goes. Once you finish typing out the melody, what you can do is loop it and have it go for longer. For this one, just because the melody starts before the first beat comes in, what you can do is actually split the MIDI region by hitting Command T, and that'll split the MIDI region into 2 sections where this is before the 4-bar loop comes in and this is afterwards, and you can just loop it away. Sometimes you might come up with a melody or a chord progression on a certain patch and you might want to move it. So to do that, you just select all of it and you can just move it down to the next patch. Dude, I love this patch, bro. This chord stabs patch is amazing. But it is a little low, so what you can do is just select all of it again, click inside the MIDI region and hit Command A to select all of the notes, and then you can actually transpose them up an octave. That just means the notes will stay the same, but they're just gonna go up in pitch, so they'll be higher. What you can do is hit Option, Shift, and the up arrow, and it'll all go up an octave. If you wanna transpose them just by semitones, you can just hit Option and the up or down arrows, so now it's a little higher. Okay, and now we can make a bass line in the actual bass patch. There are many chord progressions, but there's only a few that people use pretty often. Cheeky little bit of music theory. We're working in the key of C right now, so this is just all of the white notes, and each of these Cs, they just start a new octave of the key of C. There's only 7 individual notes in a major scale. In the C major scale, you just have C, D, E, F. You can see where this is going. G, but then it switches up, it goes A, and then starts again. When you're choosing a chord progression, again, you're gonna wanna keep it simple. Just do 2 or 3 chords, maybe 4 if you're feeling exciting. And the way we talk about chord progressions that you can apply to any key, just so you can talk about the relationships between the chords instead of the names, is you just use numbers for where the root of the chord is in the scale. And the root is just the first note in the chord. When we were talking about earlier that C major chord, the root is the lowest note, C. It does get a little bit more complicated as you do different inversions where you like put half of the chord below the root. For now, we're just gonna say that the lowest note in the chord we're playing is the root. Let's say the first chord we're using is a C major, which would just be the 1 chord of the key of C because it's the first note in the scale. My personal favorite is just a 1-4 progression. If you know my music, Winter is just 2 chords all the way through. Basically, it's just 1-4. Good Morning is also just 1-4 all the way through. It's a very powerful chord progression. So that's what we're gonna do to start with, and then we can play around from there. Since C is the 1 of the scale, where do you think the 4 of the scale would be? I just never expected I would do a Dora the Explorer. Can you find the map? Yes, you're right. 3, 4. Boom. That's the 4 of the scale. So we can just Command A, Command C, all of these, copy them, and just paste them where we want them. And it'll paste in the note that it was last at. But what you can do is just drag it up. And so now we have a 1-4 chord progression. Okay, I don't know about y'all, but I kind of heard that going a different direction, we might be able to make this a little bit interesting. Instead of it going back down to the 1, the C, I kind of wanted it to go... Singing along with bass lines is really hard. So right now it goes dun 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 dun, and I want it to go dun 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 dun. What I'll do is just copy paste that one more time and just move it down to where that note was. Okay, and can you figure out what note that is in the scale? So we've actually gone down to the octave below. You can count it up from the root though. So this is the 1, this is the 4, and this right here is actually the same note as that one, just an octave up. Counting up from the 4, it's the 4, 5, 6. So right now the chord progression we have goes 1, 4, 6, and then we can listen back to it and kind of see where our ears want it to go. I'm hearing that, I don't know. So just 1, 4, 6, 4, possibly a slapper. Okay, so here we have a very classic chord progression. We have 3, these aren't even chords, these are just root notes. It's a bass line, I guess, but it's a 1, 4, 6, 4. Then from here, what you can do is just start playing around with a bunch of other bass lines. So we can do a 1, 3, 4. Yeah, I really don't like that. We can also do a 1-4-5. One, 4, 5 is like a really classic progression. You'll hear it a lot in like old rock and roll pop music type of thing. Another one that's really fun to build tension with is just a 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll hear it in a couple Blink-182 songs. And of course, we don't have to stick to one of these the whole time. We can shift it around depending on how our mood feels it. So I think my favorite one so far has been the 1-4-6-4. I'm gonna move this down to a different patch just because this is a vocal melody that I'm just gonna sing over it later. And then we can make actual chords with this chord stabs thing. So let's find just a lead that sounds nice. Oh my God, okay, I'm in love with that sound. Why is this so good? Yo, I love that for some reason. Definitely send these to me. You can DM me on Instagram or go to the Discord and put them in there. I definitely want to see all of y'all's first songs. What we're gonna do actually is put in drums. Click Command D again to duplicate this, and then we're gonna go to the drum kit. GarageBand has a lot of quality sounds, so we can either do an electronic drum kit and then hit musical typing, Command K. You can move up and down in terms of octaves with musical typing with the Z and the X. You can see it on the screen. The way all drum kits work in keyboards is you go to C1, and then the A, the C note here, is the kick. The S and the D are a snare, so S is normally center snare, D is like rim, and then you have all the toms. This is just traditionally, like this changes a lot once you get into electronic drums and people start getting creative. T, Y, and U keys are the hi-hats, so this is T is closed. And then you've got claps, rim shots, crashes. Play around with this, it's super fun. Just start clicking random ones and playing shit. We're just doing the same thing that we were doing before, just finding a drum kit instead of a sound. Also, the cool thing with all of these drum machines is they're all tuned to the key of C automatically, so it's nice. Oftentimes when you're working on a drum beat or just anything really, you might want to loop. What you can do to loop is you just click up on this top bar right here and you can drag. We're just gonna loop it while we look for drum sounds. I can't get over you. That's actually kind of cute. Let's say you have a drum beat and you want to record it in, get that like J Dilla flow with it. What you can do is click on where you want to start recording, pull up musical typing, and you just click the R button. Make sure you have this 1, 2, 3, 4 thing selected at the top here. Click the metronome to make sure that's playing while you record, and then press record and it'll count you in. Now that you recorded something in, it's a little bit more human than just typing it into the grid, and you can double click. If you're really bad at musical typing like I am, or just playing in rhythm at all, select all of it and hit quantize. So we're gonna do it to 16th notes because that's what we were playing. And now it's just robotic. So it's perfect, but we don't really want it perfect just because like I kind of want like a little bit of flow to it. What you can do is go to region here, make sure it's on, and then you go here and you pull the strength thing back and you can watch the notes move out of place to where you first played them. When it's 100, it's perfectly aligned with the grid. I like putting it at like 80-ish, depending on how badly you played. Okay, I'm just gonna fix this drum fill at the end here. A fill is just cool stuff happening that wasn't happening before. Right before you do a chord change, sometimes it's nice to do little flourishes in the drums, or if you don't want to be that fancy schmancy, you can just do it at the end of the chord progression. Here, the only flourish I'm doing is after the first 2 chords, I add this little open hat. And then at the end of the chord progression, I want to do a little tom fill. I want to add a sound that isn't in this drum set. I could either open up another drum set or I could look through the GarageBand loop library, which is what we're going to do right now. We can look in this loop library, click instrument, we can do drums. Basically what they have is a bunch of loops. They got a bunch of loops. Damn, some of these go hard. I don't fucking know, bro. Sometimes just looking at sound effects. Jesus. I'm unsatisfied. We're gonna skip that for now. This is going a direction I didn't expect it would go. I'm not gonna lie, I had a plan, it's not going to plan. Okay, just to add a little bit of inspiration to this, we're gonna record vocals right now. So the way I like to set this up normally is put my drums at the bottom, I'll put my chords up here, the lead will be on top, and the bass will be next to the drums. We're gonna get this out of my face. And then on top of everything will be the vocals. What you can do is click this plus button, or you can hit Option Command N, and this menu will come out again. You can connect a guitar through an interface, or a mic through USB. You can also add a drummer that like automatically adds beats if you wanna do that. What we're gonna do is just click this microphone button, make sure this is clicked as well so you can hear yourself, and then we're gonna click create. Okay. Whoa. The way you hear yourself is you click this button right here.
Hello, sweet prince. It's your boy.
You'll find that if you're holding it like right in front of your face when you say peas, bad bitches, then like it pops really hard. A way to fix that, put it below you so that way the peas don't hit as hard. But the safest way to do that is actually to put a sock over your mic. So we're gonna do that. Make sure this shit is fucking clean because you don't want to be goddamn singing into a smelly sock. You know what I'm saying? That's gross. You don't have to have lyrics when you first start recording. I don't have a full lyric on me either. I have some lyrics that I've been thinking about. The way you do it is you just jam the thing in there and then you hold the other headphone and then you hold this end of the sock and just stretch the sock out. So this creates what's called a pop filter. And now the P's don't hit as hard. So when you create a track, you'll see these controls down here, and down here you'll see the plugins. If you can't see the plugins, it'll be closed up in this menu. You can just click the arrow. This is where we get into vocal mixing, which is a little intense, so we're just gonna take it calmly. What you can do is a channel EQ. You're gonna wanna move that. You just click on it and drag it to above the compressor. And what we're gonna do with this channel EQ is remove frequencies we don't want before the sound actually gets compressed. And what a compressor does is just squeezes the sound. It makes the loud parts of your vocal quieter and the quieter parts louder, so it just makes it a little less dynamic. What we're gonna do is click this red button and drag it all the way up to 200, click on it, and then turn up the slope to 48. So what we're doing is just removing all of these low frequencies that make our voice sound real boomy and yucky. Then hold down 500 area because this is where a lot of room.
Too fucking tired again.
Now that we've taken out a little bit of sound, we can go to our compressor, turn that on, and click in here. Now what we want to do is turn up the ratio to about 5, and what this is doing is just make sure when we sing too loud, like it's not too jarring, and when we sing too soft, we're not inaudible. And then we're going to turn this all the way down to 5. And then we'll pull the threshold down to 30. What I'm looking at here is how much the compressor is compressing. With sock equipped, I basically want the compressor to be reaching the halfway point. Now let's try and sing along. Oh, well, I kinda like. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go listen back. Holy shit. It's so bad. What you can actually do is double click the audio file, and if you're like me and like need auto-tune, lucky for you, we have that option. So click this weird little DNA thing on the left side. Click track, and then crank that bad boy pitch correction up. So your keys should be in C major, so you can just click limit to key. I'm gonna drink some tea. Okay, let's try and figure out some lyrics. So normally I just fucking sing a bunch and then just like see what I can come up with. Let's say you recorded a vocal melody you don't want to use right now. You can just hit this no audio button and it mutes it. Boom. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Make sure you're duplicating your audio tracks after doing all the mixing work. Then when you look back, I hope you find that. Alright, that's what we're gonna do. What you can do is click this notepad thing and type the lyrics you want. And now we can record. Okay, sock inbound. I kinda like you. And now what we're gonna do is just perfect the vocal mix of this one track and then duplicate it and do a bunch of layers. Let's click B, go to this channel EQ, and then what we can do is click analyzer, and this is super baller. And you can see the frequencies that your voice is hitting. What we're gonna do is just take this band and turn up this Q factor. So basically what that does is just make it a little bit more spiky. We can turn it up really loud and drag it around looking for frequencies we don't like. Ooh, also it's important to solo it and turn off the compressor and the pitch correction. Also put the pitch correction first. Thank you, I hope you like me. Oh Jesus. Okay, so there's one. Yeah, we're just gonna cut that out entirely.
Perfected my sensation and you look back, I hope you find.
So with vocals, you might be tempted to keep a lot of bass in there just because like it sounds nice when it's by itself, but when it's actually in the mix, you want to leave room for the actual bass, and especially in those lower frequencies, it can get very cluttered. So that's kind of why we're removing so much bass area. Alright y'all, so we had some technical difficulties. The screen recording file corrupted and I lost like an hour of footage. So I finished the song. So we're just gonna go back through and talk about what I did, which might actually have been a better idea in the first place, but let me know in the comments. Okay, let's get into it. So I've used 2 EQs, a compressor, and another EQ at the end. So this one is that really surgical EQ, taking out a lot of, in this low area, a lot in these 500 mids where you can hear a lot of room reflection, and a lot in this 1K, which is pretty sharp, causes a lot of ear fatigue around this 1K to 2K region. The idea with subtractive EQ is just to make it clearer and more pleasant to listen to before we compress it and bring up the volume of the whole thing. Well, that was my first pass of subtractive EQ, and this was my second pass. Removing a little bit more of the 500, a lot around this 1500K because it was really sharp, and then adding some highs back in, you know, adding a little bit of breath to the mix, and then we compress. So looking at these compressor settings, ratio of 5, short attack because we want to catch all the transients. I've been really enjoying like slammed vocals, like really harshly compressed vocals recently. If you want less compression, like a less compressed sound, you can just turn up the attack. And then this threshold we just bring down until we're getting about 3/4 of the way up this compressor here. As you can see, it's going up to about 3/4, sitting at half compression. A lot of the times compressors with graphical interfaces will show how many dBs are actually being reduced. When it's like the compressor's coming in, it'll show how much it's turning down the signal. I'm pretty sure this is actually what's happening with these dots. I like getting about 15 decibels of gain reduction. This is basically correlating to like 15 decibels. Just get it up to like 3/4. And then lastly, just some tonal EQ. So that's doing these like big sweeps. So I'm bringing down a little bit more of the bass just to really thin it out, and a little bit more of these 1 to 2K frequencies. After you remove kind of spikier sections of the EQ that like jab into your ears, you can bring up the entire segment to shape the tone of the sound. In this 1 to 2K region, there's a lot of vocal presence there. I just wanted to bring the vocal presence up. And so that's the mixing chain. Ooh, also important note, I changed the key of the song because it was too low. So to change the key of the song, you can go up to this top bar here and click on the letter thing. That's the key. And then you can just change the key in here. So we were at C major. I wanted to bring it up to F major just because that was a more comfortable place for my singing voice. You might have to go in and change the MIDI regions, but sometimes Garageband does some stuff automatically. It's kind of confusing. And then after I changed the key, I re-recorded the vocals, fixed up the vocal chain, duplicated it by pressing Command D. Oh, a new one. And then doing new vocal parts. What the stacks look like changes from every song. Sometimes I'll do harmony, sometimes I'll just double octaves. So for this one, we did 2 doubling tracks, so just the same vocal take, but hard panned right and left. You can pan something to different directions in your ears with this knob right here. Whoa, we can test it like this. Whoa. Doing doubling of vocals does a couple things. The first thing is it just adds width to the mix. It sounds big and powerful, so it's really good for choruses, especially in hooks. The other thing doubling vocal takes does is it actually covers up mistakes, because you normally don't make the kind of same errors in each take. You'll hear about this in choirs, like everybody will take breaths at different times, so it kind of sounds like everybody's singing one note all the way, but everybody's just breathing at different times. So if we add these in as well. I hope you like me and all of my awkward attempts to come. Nice and big. The next thing I did was falsetto takes, so going into my head voice, hard panning as well. And so what this does is just adds more high-end and harmonic variance to like the vocals. I kinda like you, I hope you like me and all of my. So this is what it sounded like from where we were at. Like you, I hope you like me and all of my awkward attempts to conversation. Which was nice, but the one thing it needed extra of was chords. So I decided I wanted some sort of guitar in there. So it was really easy. You just go to the library, go to guitar, and I chose the hard rock patch. I just played exactly what the bass was playing with the musical typing so that it was kind of imperfect. Did that whole quantizing thing, and then I just doubled that, did the same thing where I played it in myself, but I just panned it hard right. Since these two are the same patch, if I had just typed it in and it was perfectly aligned with the grid, it would just sound like a louder version of the patch. Just since it's the same sound on both sides, it sounds like it's going down the middle. Since these are both played kind of imperfectly, it sounds nice and wide. Side note, if you have 2 MIDI regions that you want to put together, you can just select both of them and hit Command J. Wow, now they are together forever. Now with the chords, we had a little bit more of a full sound. I hope you like me and all my awkward attempts to convert. this is kind of coming together. I was like, okay. And then I wanted to add some melodies. So I think it's always good to have multiple melodies going, one with your vocals and one with a couple other instruments. Too many and it gets a little chaotic, but I think having up to 3 melodies going at once, especially if there's a lot of space between them, I think that can be beautiful and they can add to each other and you can just get emotional textures that you never would have thought of just one melody at a time. So the melody I added was this one. Simplicity is key because especially when you have multiple melodies going on, you want the listener to be able to latch onto it. So then what I did was I just played a similar melody but just a fifth above it, so it's kind of harmonizing. I actually kind of like that one better than the first one, and together they sound really nice. And then I just added a little intro drum segment. I love that hi-hat so much. And now it sounds like this.
I kinda like you, I hope you like me. All of my awkward attempts at conversations when you look back. I hope you find that I haven't been wasting your time 'cause you're perfect in mine.
Man, that was nasty. You could kind of hear the fucking me breathing at the end. That was ass. And that's all we're gonna be doing for today because this video is already way too long. We'll do another episode of this. Hopefully it's a little bit more comprehensible. So yeah, that's all we're gonna do for today. We'll get into some more stuff in episodes down the line. Okay, I hope that was informative. And that's it. Hopefully that helped you get started with using GarageBand and get some tips and tricks for starting on your first song. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or how I can make this sort of video better, any recommendations or what you might like to see, because I love doing these like, ooh, like get started here videos. If you want to come hang out, ask further questions, jump into the Discord and smash that motherfucking like button. Subscribe, we would love to have you here. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and hopefully made some music as well. I'm Bryce and thank you for being part of my life.